I cringe when I hear the words time management. I think of all of the self help slop, all of the crazy morning routines, and all of the bullshit advice that comes with it. But that doesn't suddenly just make time management pointless. We still need it. It still helps you and I achieve things and to find meaning in our life, whether that's in college, in business, or even in your personal hobbies. So instead of abandoning it completely, how can we make it anti hustle? How can we remove all the crap, all the weird gimmicks, and set ourselves up for realistic and long term progress? Well, to be honest, I don't really know. I'm still looking for the answer myself. But regardless, I want to share some of the tips and mindsets that I've picked up in college or over these past few years growing the channel. Things that have allowed me to cut out the toxic parts of time management and instead build a routine and a life that is not only more productive, but actually fun and feels like it's worth living. A lot of my points do not involve anything extra to your routine. Rather, they involve stripping away some of the old tropes from the self-help community, which could be holding you back. Or at the very least, they help you re-examine them and see, do I really need this? The first big one I abandoned was the idea that in order to be productive, you have to schedule every single minute of your day. I used to do this with college and with YouTube, and it kind of worked. But that's only because my days were fairly predictable. It was lectures, home, work, sleep, and then you repeat it, and that's all. But especially afterwards and during the holiday periods, that deteriorated completely. I could not stick to a minute by minute routine. Some slots would overlap, and eventually it just became a total free-for-all, and it was chaos. I'd be doing college work when I was supposed to be writing a script. I would be rushing to edit something when I was meant to be recording. And if I had to study for a test, well, I just couldn't be asked because I was tired from everything else. Eventually, my calendar felt more performative than truly useful. And every time my phone gave me some notification of what I was supposed to do next, it just added stress. Because what if I was in a good flow from before? Or what if I hadn't finished it? Or what if I simply couldn't be bothered to do this next thing it was telling me to? It didn't account for any of these things. And plus, life doesn't run in minutes. It always throws unpredictable moments at you that throw things off and ruin that fine balance you've made. And that only adds more stress. And at some point I remember thinking, yeah, this has to go. We can't keep doing this. But I'm not going to be a dickhead and say that you have to abandon time blocking completely. Because it's generally useful. It helps us get stuff done. All we need is a few subtle tweaks to make it more realistic. And this is just one of them, but you'll see a few more later in the video, of course. The first thing I did was give myself space in between activities as a sort of break or a natural transition time. You are not an NPC running on a script, and you shouldn't be expected to immediately stop one thing and then switch to the other within the blink of an eye. It just feels robotic, a bit unnatural, and at least for me, it led to burnout. Instead, I allow myself 10 or 20 minutes in between things to just do nothing. Maybe I would go down and talk to my housemates, or maybe I made myself a drink or responded to a message. Or heck, even just go on your phone for a bit. It's not the end of the world. It just creates some healthy separation in between tasks and makes everything feel more chill. My next bit of advice, which I learned the hard way, is to reduce the amount of decisions in your routine. And I think this will especially relate to you if you have many different interests or hobbies. A few years back, I thought I could do everything. I thought that as long as I had my calendar, I could ram as much shit as I wanted to in those 24 hours, and it would give me the time and energy to do all of them. The reading, the writing, the violin, the YouTube, college, and all the other smaller crap like the stretching routines and the journaling and everything. Can you see where this is going? By ramming my calendar with all of these different time blocks, ironically I ended up doing even less than before, and it was a total paralysis of decision. Now the solutions were simple, but they were hard to swallow, and I'll admit that. I had to trim off the fat, get rid of the stuff that didn't really matter, and only focus on the interests that stood out above all, the ones that had the most meaningful change in the present and in the future. But that's not all, because even if you have the simplest system, it will fall apart without some kind of structure around it. Having to remember what you should do and when is not only mentally tiring, but it's unreliable, because you forget sometimes and it's a pain in the ass to keep track of everything, even if there's not much. Google Calendar is fine, but it's a bit clunky and primitive. And Obsidian is great for notes and all, but not so much time management. A smoother, more modern system is found with By Design, who are sponsoring this video. They offer what I like to call a cockpit for straightforward time management. with no extra faff that you'll never use. It's easy to understand the dashboard from the get-go, and the transition felt seamless. You don't have to spend ages figuring everything out and watching tutorials. And if you really want to get stuck in right away, you can slap down a pre-made template for your needs, or you can even sync your existing Google Calendar, so you don't have to bother manually moving everything. And once you're inside, everything can be tweaked to your context. Whether you're self-employed, you're a student, or you work for some massive corporation, everything goes. You can actually drag and drop tasks straight into the calendar. So instead of building up a fat to-do list which overwhelms you, you can approach it with an actual plan and set time aside for each job. It just makes sense and keeps things fluid. And finally, by design, lets you dive deeper into the planning behind every project. You can create pages which are a place to brainstorm your next steps, to keep track of your progress, and to directly plug in new tasks which emerge from that thinking. These could be your lecture notes, your work projects, or simply something you're working on in a hobby you love. I also appreciate how it gamifies your habits, and it gives you a sense of accountability, which is especially important early on when it's not yet part of your unconscious routine. That's true for the daily habits and also the long-term goals you have in your timeline. Check out By Design for yourself and see how you might use all their features. You can click the link in the description. And if you decide that it has a good place in your time management, you can use the code OD20 at checkout for 20% off. That's only available for the first 100 people who use it, so do check it out, maybe sooner rather than later, and I really hope you enjoy. The third thing I like to do is leave some areas of my day completely empty, because you can just do nothing. And sometimes you probably should. And I know that sounds contrary to a lot of the standard productivity advice, but just hear me out for a second. Like other mammals, we're not really built to work during every waking hour. It's in our blood to lounge around, to nap, to enjoy the moment without the pressure of some task looming over us. The closest thing to hustle culture in human history is, I guess, slavery, or maybe serfdom as a better term. And this time it's often self-inflicted or forced upon us by society or by the internet. A lot of productivity gurus will encourage us to multitask and to fill every single spare gap with something productive. And while that's not always bad, it's also precious to just do nothing. It gives you time to sit with yourself, to think, to reflect, to be free from life's distractions and demands, even for just a bit. And these moments, I think, maybe, are rarer as you get older. So you have to enjoy them when you can. And you know what annoys me more than anything? It's when those same hustler types say that you should grind now and then enjoy your life later when you have the money from your business or your degree. I mean, I hate that. Obviously, it's good to work hard and to sacrifice for the future, but if you're going to be relegating all of your happiness and freedom for then, well, that's just destructive and pointless. If you can't enjoy the simple pleasures of life right now, like sharing a drink with friends or sitting by a river in the spring, who's to say you can do it when you're richer or you have a degree or you've achieved that thing? Promising yourself something that may never arrive is a dangerous game. And so all of this is to say that you can enjoy life now just as you enjoy it later, and it's also good to appreciate silence sometimes and to enjoy doing nothing. And my final point, which I learned early on, is that you don't have to schedule anything in the first place, at least not immediately. And I know that sounds odd, but again, let me explain. In the early days, when I first discovered Google Calendar, I was obsessed over making a perfect week, micromanaging every minute and all of that crap. And what you're doing there is you're telling your future self what to do in order to live well. But ironically, that's not what you necessarily want to do when that moment actually comes. It's like you are the twat manager and the suffering employee all at one, simultaneously, where your life is being lived top down. You have no choice in what you do, it's your calendar that chooses. You're the slave and the calendar is your master. When I started to live out my day according to my schedule, trying to be all good and productive, I would look at my phone to see what was coming up next and think, oh, fuck's sake, I don't want to do this right now. Maybe I was burned out from something, or maybe I was busy doing something else, or I needed to rest or something. Or maybe I realized that the idea of doing this thing was better than the thing itself. And having aspirations is great, don't get me wrong, but not when they're rooted in illusions or internet hype, or what you think you should be doing rather than what you actually want to be doing. So what the hell do you even do in this situation? Well, you can't predict the future, and you can't know what's truly right for you without having done it first. So what I would do is live first and schedule later. What that means is instead of planning top down, telling yourself what to do with a calendar, you abandon that and you flip the script. You live your weeks normally as you would, trying to be productive and trying to keep it realistic. And based on that, you design your ideal week. You take that and you maybe add 1 or 2 extra things to it, like language learning or boxing, whatever, just to push yourself a bit. But overall, it is rooted in reality. You've done this before and you can do a little bit extra. Now, instead of living out this artificial life that you designed fully on a calendar, you actually do what you enjoy. And any positive changes are small enough to be realistic and sustainable in the long run. It's not so crazily overconfident and just ridiculous. Like, this is real time management. There's so much more I could ramble on about, and I'd love to hear if you have any suggestions for this or how you approach it, because there's always fantastic advice in the comments, and not only does it help me when you comment, which I appreciate, but it also helps everyone else reading it, and it's really great to get this discussion going. And of course, you'll like the newsletter. It's linked down below. It's totally free. It's not spammy at all. And we talk about some of the similar ideas to here, but also some exciting different ones, which you may not see. And if you like this video, then you'll probably also like this other video on anti-hustle reading, how we approach that. It's kind of in the same vein. So do check that out, and I really appreciate you watching.